Now in verses 10 to 12, here is where we will see the hardships that came upon Abram and his family. Verses 10 to 12, and chapter 12 of Genesis reads, Now there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to dwell there, for the famine was severe in the land. And it came to pass, when he was close to entering Egypt, that he said to Sarai his wife, Indeed, I know that you are a woman of beautiful countenance. Therefore it will happen, when the Egyptians see you, that they will say, This is his wife, and they will kill me, but they will let you live. Not only was there a great and severe famine in the land, but now Abram had to go to a place that could have easily destroyed his family and even his own life. But because of the faith that the Lord had seen in Abram, God never left his side. But he protected him and his family from any bad thing that could happen to them. Verses 14 to 20. And we'll go verse by verse, 14 to 20. And it reads, So it was when Abram came into Egypt that the Egyptians saw a woman, that she was very beautiful. The princes of Pharaoh also saw her and commanded her to Pharaoh. And the woman was taken to Pharaoh's house. He treated Abram well for her sake. He had sheep, oxen, male donkeys, male and female servants, female donkeys, and camels. But the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plague because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this you have done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say, She is my sister? I might have taken her as my wife. Now therefore, here's your wife. Take her and go your way. And in verse 20, So Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away with his wife and all that he had. And all that he had. The powerful hand of God put Abram in what seemed to be the worst possible scenario, but pulled him from the depths of destruction into his perfect protection. And in doing so, God gave Abram the blessings that was promised to him. In Genesis chapter 13, verses 2 to 4, we'll see this. Abram was very rich in livestock, in silver and in gold. And he went on his journey from the south as far as Bethel, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai, to the place of the altar which he had made there at first. And there Abram called on the name of the Lord. After the riches were given to Abram, he went right back to where he had the promise given to him, back to the presence of God, where he had made there first. We must remember that after the calling, after the hardships, and even after the blessings, we must turn back to where we had started. Where all the blessings came from. And only in the glorious presence of God will we ourselves be pulled from rags to riches. Another example of the ways that we find comfort in the crisis is found in the story of Isaac, the son of Abraham. And we'll find that in chapter 26 and verses 1 and 2 in the same book of Genesis. And it reads, There was a famine in the land, besides the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Philistines, in Gilroy. Then the Lord appeared to him and said, Do not go down to Egypt. Live in the land of which I shall tell you. Do not go down to Egypt. Live in the land which I shall tell you. Now, this time, God tells Isaac to stay in Gilroy, right in the heart of the famine. This itself would take that kind of faith that God wants us to have. The faith that tells God that you completely trust in Him and His Word. And in verses 3 and 4, we will see the perfect promise that God gave Isaac's father. Dwell in this land, and I will be with you, and bless you. For to you and your descendants I give all these lands. I will perform the oath which I swore to Abraham your father, and I will make your descendants multiply as the stars of heaven. I will give to your descendants all of these lands, and in your seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. Even with the famine going on in the land and supplies running short, to a lot of us, this would seem almost impossible for one to find a blessing in such chaos. And through man, it is impossible. But through the Spirit of the Most High God and through the blood of His holy, blessed Son, the promises that Jehovah gives you will come through, no matter what the circumstances. And verse 5 tells us why and how we find the blessings of God. Verse 5, chapter 26 in the book of Genesis. Because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. Because Abraham obeyed my voice. And now with this reassurance of confidence, verse 6 tells us what was the answer that Isaac had given God. Verse 6. So Isaac dwelt in Gerar. Isaac dwelt in Gerar. This is one of the shortest verses in the Bible. But this short verse speaks so much about how obedient Isaac was. Total trust. Full faith. All-out obedience. With the worst looking him right in the face. Isaac stood firm in the promise of God. And followed what he was commanded. And from verses 7 to 11 in chapter 26 in the book of Genesis, we see, the big similarity, and how Isaac followed in his father's footsteps and tried to protect himself and his family, by not letting the Philistines know that the beautiful Rebekah was his wife. Verses 7 to 11, and it says, and the man of the place asked about his wife, and he said, she is my sister. For he was afraid to say that she was my wife, because he thought, lest the men of the place kill me for Rebekah, because she is beautiful to behold. Now it came to pass, when he had been there a long time, that Amalek, king of the Philistines, looked through a window and saw, and there was Isaac, showing endearment to Rebekah his wife. Then Amalek called Isaac and said, quite obviously she is your wife. So how could you say she is my sister? Isaac said to him, because I said, lest I die on account of her. And Amalek said, what is this you have done to us? One of the people might soon have laid with her, and you would have brought guilt on us. And verse 11, so Amalek charged all his people, saying, he who touches this man or his wife shall surely be put to death.